Okay, so in this explainer, we're diving into Paulo Coelho's Warrior of the Light, and we're going to be exploring a pretty radical idea that the path to real wisdom, well, it isn't about avoiding your struggles. It's about walking directly through them. And let's start with a kind of strange question, one that really gets to the very heart of how we choose to live our lives. Now, it might not make much sense right now, but trust me, we'll come back to its powerful meaning by the end. You see, this whole analysis is really built around one single, profound idea. True wisdom isn't something you find by sidestepping pain. Nope. It's discovered by walking directly into the fire and coming out the other side transformed. And as we're about to see, the lessons that are most necessary are almost never the ones we want to learn. They're usually uncomfortable, they're demanding, and yeah, they come with a cost. But that cost, that's the price of growth. So let's jump into our first story. It takes us to the ancient pilgrimage route of Kumano in Japan. And this is where the author himself gets introduced to a practice designed to strengthen the soul by really testing the body. The practice is called shugendo, and its definition, it gets right to the point. It's not about choosing between love or pain. It's about understanding that deep, inseparable relationship between the two and how they both have to shape who we are. So to practice shugendo, the author makes a choice. It's simple, but it's profound. He decides to walk 5 kilometers completely barefoot on this rocky, bitterly cold path. He chooses to embrace discomfort, just to see what lies on the other side of it. And the result is, well, it's immediate, and it's overwhelming. The pain isn't just physical anymore. It consumes everything. It invades his thoughts, it weakens his spirit, and every single part of his being is just screaming at him to stop, to put his shoes back on. But then, something shifts. By pushing through that wall of agony, he discovers that the limit he thought was there, it wasn't a wall at all. It was a door. He breaks through to this whole new state of awareness where, yeah, the pain is still there, but it no longer has any power over him. Later on, a monk just perfectly frames this incredible experience with a really crucial distinction. Pain, he says, is just a physical sensation. Suffering, on the other hand, that's our mental and emotional attachment to wanting that sensation to stop. It's the resistance to the pain that causes the real anguish. Now, this whole principle isn't just about extreme physical challenges, like, walking on rocks. The book shows us how this very same idea appears again and again in all different forms of spiritual and emotional pain. For instance, consider this fantastic little parable about a thief who gets caught. He's given a choice of punishments, and of course he tries to pick the one he thinks will be the least painful. By trying to dodge the initial pain, which was a fine of 10 gold pieces, he ends up choosing to eat 200 onions. Of course, that becomes unbearable, so he asks for the whipping instead. And when that becomes too much, well, he ends up having to pay the fine anyway. He suffered 3 times, all because he refused to face the necessary pain right up front. Or take the story of the young man who's seeking salvation. Saint Antone gives him this bizarre task: tie raw meat all over his body and walk through town. And of course, what happens? He's immediately attacked by dogs and falcons. So here's the point. The meat, it represents his past. You can't start a new path while you're still carrying pieces of the old one. The pain of letting go completely is necessary. If you try to hold on to even a little bit of that past, you're just inviting attack and you're preventing yourself from ever moving forward. So all of these stories, they're building towards this central, really powerful metaphor for 2 ways a life can end. And it's all based on how we deal with purpose and hardship. On one hand, you've got the ghost town. Once the gold is gone, its purpose is fulfilled, and it just becomes empty, desolate, useless. But on the other hand, you have a fallen tree in a forest. It doesn't just die, its fall opens a space for sunlight, its body fertilizes the soil, and its trunk becomes this nursery for new life. And this just brilliantly illustrates the choice that we all have. We can live a life that, once its first purpose is served, becomes an empty relic. Or we can live a life that, even in its ending, becomes a source of life and nourishment for everything that comes after. This brings us to the final and maybe the most critical lesson. If pain is necessary for wisdom, what are we supposed to do with the marks and the memories it leaves behind? What do we do with our scars? The advice from the master here is crystal clear. See your scars not as damage, not as failure, but as proof. Proof of battles you fought, of challenges you met, and of victories you won, even the small ones. They are the symbols of your experience. Because a true warrior of the light, they're not someone who's perfect or never feels pain. No way. They are defined by their humanity. They make mistakes. They question everything. They suffer. But the crucial thing is, they keep seeking a reason through it all, and that is how they find meaning. So we end right where we began, but with a totally new perspective. The real question isn't whether or not you'll face hardship. You will. The question is what you will build from it. What wisdom have your scars brought for you, and what will that hard-won wisdom give back to the world?